Be cool, be kind, be classy. The cupcakes so sweet and sexy. Have fun and enjoy the journey. Just have a good attorney. No big whoop, no biggie. She lives near New York City. And not just a YouTube show. When you know, you better grab a straw. Learn about the law. It's cool here in the shade, sipping motions of lemonade. Cool heads will prevail, kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Oh, Melanie Little is going live. Oh no, where is Melanie? Follow the island's melody. Is a concert within reach. No surprise, she's at Jones Beach. She heard some music far away. Captain Jack Stack Harbor Bay. He sings and his piano plays. Not all sounds are waterways. Speaking Yiddish and Latin, it's not just for Manhattan. It's for Goethe and Machegas. Ridiculous that insanus. Oy vey, Marcus. Proset, that's for schmucks. Be cool, be kind, be classy. My cupcakes are sweet and sassy. And not just a YouTube show. When you know, cool heads will prevail. Kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Melanie Little is going live.
Good morning. Happy Monday, my friends. Happy Monday. Today's Monday, April 7th, 2025, and we're back at it. Jury selection in the Karen Reed trial continues. There are 10 jurors selected and 6 more to go. They put the camera up early, so I figured I would get on early in case they start actually at 9 o'clock today. This is a beautiful courthouse. I just want to show you this actual courtroom because we haven't had a good look at the molding in this courtroom yet. But check out the molding in this courtroom. I mean, it's gorgeous. High ceilings, historical. This is the big courtroom where they've been doing jury selection. After this is over, we're going to pivot over to the Turk trial, which is happening right in the little courtroom next door, where Karen Reed's original trial was held and all of her pretrial was held. So we're a little bit early. This was the last minute add-on because some things transpired over the weekend that I was wondering if they're going to address in court. And that is, there's always some people in the jury pool that are maybe not so smart, and a couple of people in the jury pool posted pictures of them actually being on jury duty. Posted pictures of the back of the heads of other jurors, posted pictures of the walk into the courtroom. And I'm wondering if the judge is going to address it. I'm not sure if any of you saw any of that stuff online, but I mean, really? Hang on. I mean, do people really think, A, nobody's going to see it, and B, I don't know. Are you trying to get out of duty, jury duty, or are you trying to get on the jury? I can't tell. But there's always a few in every bunch, right? So let's see if she gives them an additional admonishment today, or a little more of a stern talking to. It's rainy here. And so the song popped into my head, because I think in song lyrics. What a cold and a rainy day. Where on earth is the sun? Anyway, does anybody name that band? I'm dating myself with that reference, but I think a lot of you know about it. A lot of you can figure out what song that was. Let's hear that band. What a cold and a rainy day. Where on earth is the sun? Anyway. We'll wait for it. Somebody will get it. And you don't get to Google it. You have to just know it off the top of your head. Oh, it's beautiful and sunny in Scotland today. Hi, Julie. Good morning. That's right, Paige. First one in with the 10,000 Maniacs. One of my favorite bands. So here's the not so smart postings of people on the jury panel. I can figure out where they went. I just opened them up. Not so smart. There's nothing happening. Although I did hear a hot mic and I heard a couple of people. I heard Alessi talking about his coffee order and about the kind of cookies that he likes the best. So I did learn something from listening to the hot mics this morning. I'm in the jury pool for the Karen Reed trial today. LOL. Here's a picture. Well done to you, sir. And then there's this one. Walking into the courthouse with the rest of the jury panel. Wicked smart, not so much, right? Last trial was about 10 weeks. I mean, Hank Brennan claims it's going to be shorter, but we've seen 150 witnesses on the combined witness list, so, or as I call it, witless list. And we know how Hank Brennan loves to get up there and just talk and talk and talk and talk. So I don't think it's going to be any shorter.
Twice as much as ours. They don't go to the salon. They don't give us the rub down.
Oh, I can hear Hank Brennan talking, and his little weaselly voice already gives me like the heebie-jeebies.
That was not what I was applying.
You know, Samantha, I wish I knew what was wrong with people. I just don't know. Just don't know. I've decided at my age that you get to a certain age and you're like, I have no more F's to give, right? I think it happens when you turn 50. And then you realize that there are some people, most people, that you're never going to be able to figure out. You know, and I tell my kids that too. They're like, why does this person behave like this? Why does this person act like this to me? Why? Don't even try and figure it out. Don't waste your time. You're never going to figure it out. It has nothing to do with you, everything to do with them. You can't control their behavior. You can only control your own reactions, but I cannot. I'm done figuring people out, right? Right, Mac? Same. Love 10,000 Maniacs. Then I remember seeing Natalie Merchant one time solo, and she just got way too political. And I don't like when any musical artists get political because, like, I'm here for the music, not for your politics. Honestly, don't care. But they do lose a lot of fans that way. Just saying. Okay, let's talk White Lotus. Do not put any spoilers in the chat. We can talk about it in a cryptic kind of way for anyone who did not watch the finale. But is anybody out there, did anyone watch White Lotus and were you on the edge of your seat the whole entire time? Happy birthday to Kathleen. Happy birthday, Kathleen. She's wishing for freedom for Karen Reed. She has everything else she needs. Well, happy birthday to Kathleen, everyone. Bull Cut Lineup says, nice hat. Thank you very much. Humble brag alert. I sang backup in a dead cover band in college. That's amazing. The Acoustic Brick Band. That's awesome. Where did you go to college? Are you the female singer? And did you ruin every song like Donna did? I hope you didn't. Not a fan. Not a fan of Donna Gottschalk. No shade, but just not a fan. I feel like when she screeches during that version of Playing in the Band, it just makes me want to plug my ears and leave. It's a bathroom song for me. Good morning. Good morning. Jennifer said, yeah, my F's went a long time ago. 50 is the don't give a duck age, right? So true. Oh, Marianne sending me a box of rain. Thank you, Marianne. Appreciate you. Calm down, Tinkerbell has not watched last night yet. Okay. We had a family group chat going on while it was on. Yeah, it was crazy. I had so many thoughts, so many ideas of what was going to happen, and I was wrong. I didn't get any of them right. Yep, I agree, Joe. Musicians should stick to music. In fact, Dave Matthews, who you know I love because I have at least 2 posters of his behind me, was at the Garden last time, like around Thanksgiving. And at Madison Square Garden. When I say garden, I mean Madison Square Garden, the Garden. And he started going off on politics, and it was not good. Dude, read the room. And a lot of people left, and a lot of people haven't been back. So it's unfortunate, but I'm not sure why they feel the need to do that. Yep, MTV Unplugged 10,000 Maniacs. One of Jen's favorites. Hope watched it. What did you think, Hope? Were you surprised? It was good. It was like an hour and a half of on the edge of your seat television. Nina doesn't know if she can handle even 6 weeks of the weasel speaking. It's hard enough getting through a hearing. Well, the judge is telling the jury panel around 6 to 8 weeks she thinks it's going to take. And so, we don't know. We'll see. Oh, thank you, Monty's Liv, for tuning in from Norway. Did anyone else hear Kerry Roberts say he lived on Meadow in the call with Sergeant Good? Yes. It really sounded like she used past tense. Oh, we listened to that yesterday on the show, the 911 call from Kerry Roberts to Canton PD. And I thought she said he lives on Meadow, but I'm not sure. I'd go back and listen to it. She says it really sounded like she used past tense. Lived, not lives. Was that just for me? I don't know. I'll have to go back and listen to it again. But I thought she said he lives on Meadow. Because Kerry Roberts wouldn't have really known anything at that point, I don't think.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't with them the night before. But interesting. Thank you, On Top, for being always on top of the super sticker. Thank you so much. I did not. I was meant to catch up on Yellow Jackets last night, and then I fell asleep. Happy birthday to Christina's son, Augustine John. What a nice name. 25, quarter of a century. Happy birthday. I'm a chick. Says Bulka lineup mediocre. No, there's no such thing. You're not a mediocre chick. You're stellar. You're a warrior. Betteros said he gave White Lotus a C. Really? Where did he say that? Twitter? Has he been already on the YouTubes this morning? Good morning, Letteros by Betteros. And Kay Willis, the realtor, is here. If you need someone to sell your house south of Boston because you want to get the duck out of Massachusetts, Kay Willis is your girl. Oh, he tweeted it? He said it was a C? I liked it. Oh, chef's kiss. Says Sarah, be creative. Java Cat watched it at 4:30 this morning. Oh, Maria, I'm sorry that you're in pain. I hope we can make it better for you, and I hope you feel better soon. Over 1,000. No, there's over 2,000 people watching now. Put your DNA on that like button. I promise you that Proctor won't get it. Well, because he's a disgraced trooper now. Handmaid's Tale to come back tomorrow, Tansy. That's what I'm calling the Judge Canoni courtroom, under her eye. I got to make a thumbnail for that. Thanks for reminding me. I saw some pictures of the premiere. I think Elizabeth Moss just had a baby. Oh, that's going to be good. That's going to be good. I remember where it left off. I have to usually go back and watch like the last episode of the last season because it's been such a long hiatus. Like Severance was 3 years in between the last episode of the first season and the second season. So I'm just on the second season now. I haven't finished it yet. And I remember I couldn't really finish the first season. Like I didn't really get into it, but then I kept watching and then I really got into it and now I'm really into it. Anybody else watch Severance? Here's the thing, Lolita smiles about White Lotus. I don't know why they just cut the camera. Is that none of the characters are likable. And that's like the thing about it, right? None of the characters are likable. They're all really annoying and really pretentious and really snobby, and there's nothing likable about them. And once you get over that hump of realizing that you're not supposed to like any of them, it becomes easier to watch, and then you kind of get it, and then it kind of clicks, right? Except, I mean, for Jennifer Coolidge in seasons 1 and 2, because she was on fire. Why did they just cut the camera? Is there a storm in the courthouse or outside the courthouse in Dedham? We're not in Kansas anymore, folks. We are not in Kansas anymore. Would I want the procedure? No. No, would you? Would you want the procedure, law girls? Never. Cristal says they should file a renewed motion to dismiss after the info found on the audit. It may be too late for that, but it's going to be great fodder for cross-examination. And also, could there be a motion for maybe sanctions against Hank Brennan because the audit found that camera that was mirrored, or what do they call it? They called it defective, or they called it, in the audit, they said that that camera had not been replaced, and yet Brennan, in his papers to the court, said it had been replaced. So which is it? We've heard a lot of stories, but the auditors said that camera had not been replaced because, in fact, they said, I think Chief Helena Rafferty told them She didn't want to remove the camera to make it look like they were hiding anything, so they left it there. So which is it? Alyssa, the White Lotus seasons pretty much stand alone. They stand alone, so you can watch the seasons separately. First one is in Hawaii. Second one is in Italy. I like the second one, I think the best. And the third one is in Thailand. And I was watching some behind the scenes stuff, and I forget who it was. Maybe Parker Posey, who I love, was talking about how freaking hot it was in Thailand. She's like, I can't even believe, she's like, even when we went to do the night scenes, it was so hot, you could barely breathe. She's like, I can't believe we made it through all those months of filming for like 7 months. And I saw Patrick Schwarzenegger, he's in it. He's the son of Maria Shriver and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Very, very handsome young man. He said he wasn't allowed to tell anybody that he was cast. And that he went away for 7 months to film it. And then when he finally was able to tell his mom and I think his sisters, they were all crying because it's their favorite show. And it was his favorite show too. So it's kind of really, really, really cool. Really cool. And Alessi says, I resent Gary's character for that reason. Oh, for the Jennifer Coolidge reason? Yeah. Yep. Thank you, Goodmans. Hi, Goodmans. Love you guys. Goodmans gifted a membership, and whoever won that membership, welcome. Heather says, I had to take a break from all that is Karen Reed. It is really weighing on my heart. So I sobbed through the finale of 1923. I'm exhausted. On a music note, I saw Buffett at Jones Beach 2 times, 33 times total. Wow. Wow. I did see Jimmy Buffett a couple times. People that were into Jimmy Buffett were really, really into the Parrot Heads, right? Once or twice. It was a good time. Very drunk crowd. Maybe that was just because it was Jones Beach. But I have not watched 1923. Is that a Yellowstone? Is that like a prequel to Yellowstone? Is that the one with Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren? Recommend? Thanks on top for also being on top of the super sticker. You're awesome. Yes. Micah says, once I realized Piper Perry, you mean the character that is, oh, Piper is the daughter. Yeah, it was a caricature with her accent. Oh, you mean the mom. What's the mom's name? Piper's the daughter. Piper. Why do you want to study Buddhism? Buddhism. Yeah. Parker Posey is amazing. And right, she was like in all of those old movies that were like amazing ensemble movies like Best in Show. Micah says she became my favorite character on the show. Yeah, and it'd be nice to not remember. That's why we try and talk about other things. We try and talk about other things, Joe Ellie, every now and then. Otherwise, we're just going to go crazy. And yeah, if you have to take a break, take a break. Look, this is hard. It's hard to be an empath and to follow a trial like this where you know that the defendant is being wrongfully persecuted because you feel it. You feel it deeply, and it's okay to take a break. Everybody needs a break. We all need a break every now and then. What up? What up? Good morning. Sanction Hanky went after Karen's attorneys to try and get them off the case. Now it's his turn. Karma is a biatch. Karma is the biatch. Yes, they can use the audit in the trial for certain purposes. The document itself would not be admissible likely, but they can certainly cross-examine certain witnesses about it. They may be able to use it in furtherance of another motion to exclude some evidence or to have Mr. Brennan sanctioned, because I don't believe that he would do anything without really knowing the truth of the matter asserted. Let's go to Boston 10 for a second, but earlier their sound was terrible. So we may have to play around with the sound a little bit. Yeah, their sound is still terrible, so we're going to go with Law and Crime. Law and Crime is really getting it done lately. I mean, they're doing this, and they're doing Turk in the courtroom next door, and they're the only ones that are streaming the Turk trial. Kevin Reddington is the attorney for Dr. Harry Turk.
They're probably softer.
Cannabis says Alessi walked into court without the Yanetti today. Oh. Yan Yeti. Yes, you should watch White Lotus. You should. Pause in Paris. You should. especially the Italy season because it's so beautiful. The scenery is so beautiful. I love the language. Certain characters speak Italian. It's awesome. Thank you, Heather, again. Kathleen became a member. Welcome, Kathleen R. Kevin says Parker Posey is a legend. The House of Yes. Yeah, I know. I love her. I love her too. Thank you, Antel, for your super stick. Always on top of it, and so early in the morning even. Letteros by Betteros says, I think they should try to get Easter back in as an expert after that audit report. It's clear not even Canton PD knows proper procedure. Excellent, excellent point. Motion to reconsider on Easter, using that as an exhibit. Well done, Letteros by Bettero. I like it. Look how collaborative we are here. That's a great idea. How can the judge say that the jury, lay people like you and me and others, should know proper police procedure? You don't need an expert. You don't need an expert to talk about it, Mr. Alessi, because the jury should know. It should be common knowledge. You can cross-examine the Canton PD witnesses and the MSP witnesses. Well, apparently they didn't even know the right procedure. And they didn't even have the right equipment on hand. They didn't have evidence collection kits. They didn't have any of the necessary stuff. They didn't take photographs of the body. They didn't interview witnesses as Canton PD. They didn't record the interviews. All failures that were found by the audit company, which, if you guys didn't watch that show yesterday that I did with you guys, it was a long show. It was like 5 hours. We didn't even cover the entire audit or the entire town hall meeting that was held. But it's so egregious. It's so egregious. Like at one point, the auditor is on stage and he starts talking about, I think one of the people in the audience asked a question about Kevin Albert, getting drunk and driving his police vehicle, and he literally was up on stage and said, listen, not a big deal. Back in the day, he's like, I had to suspend at least 130 cops for drinking on the job. Listen, it happens. They have a beer at lunch, no big whoop. Like, he was really downplaying it. It was gross. It was horrifying. And after that, how could you believe the thing that these people said? The stream from yesterday, even though it's 5 hours, I've time-stamped it so you can fast forward ahead to certain portions of it, certain portions of the audit report that we went over, certain questions. Peter Murphy was in the audience. He asked a question. For those of you who don't know Peter Murphy, I've known Peter Murphy for a long time. Consider him to be a friend. He's an amazing, amazing, kind soul. He was with Canton PD for 30 years. He left Canton PD as a sergeant. He's retired, and he's not been afraid to speak out. And he asked a question, and they disrespected him. Even though he said, I was with Canton PD for 30 years, I was a sergeant. He said, if this was one of your family members, if John O'Keefe was your family member, would you be happy about the way this investigation was conducted? And he was totally blown off. His question went a little deeper than that, but the auditor said, yeah, that's a statement. That's not really a question, so I'm not really going to address it. And then the woman, whoever it was, who was like the MC of the meeting, said some other things, and it was so disrespectful and so gross. Yeah, they knocked him completely down. Texas Tan Girl. Daddy says, Sergeant Peter Murphy is a national treasure. He is. He hasn't been afraid to speak out. And he's really a kind soul and a wonderful human. Oh, hey, Jay-Z. Watching you with our lawyer today. Oh, yeah? You're watching with your lawyer? Hope he's not billing you, or she, for the time. I had to explain the case to him. He also believes Karen didn't hit Officer John O'Keefe. Yeah. John O'Keefe was not hit by a car, and a car did not hit John O'Keefe. It just didn't happen. The injuries to his body do not line up with the pedestrian versus motor vehicle accident. They just don't. They just don't. Taillight did not hit John O'Keefe's arm like this, break into 47 pieces that are shaped like teeth, and then drag along his arm to create those linear abrasions that look just like dog bites. but only made puncture holes in his shirt that he was wearing. Then he did a pirouette, flew 30 feet onto the lawn, smashed his head on rock-hard ground, apparently, according to the Commonwealth, which split his brain open and his head to the point where it herniated his brain stem, created multiple brain bleeds, and didn't have any other bruise below the neck or any bruising to the right arm or any fractures. Make it make sense. It can't. The only fractures he had were skull fractures. It doesn't make sense. Strange credulity. Thank you, Veronica, truly, for your super sticker. Truly. Truly scrumptious. Remember Truly Scrumptious? That's so funny because we were talking about Chitty Chitty Bang Bang the other day, which is one of my all-time favorite movies since when I was a kid. And that crazy, creepy child catcher in that paddy wagon that had all the candy. Lollipops, free lollipops, children. And Truly Scrumptious. Gen X 1968 says, I feel so bad for John O'Keefe's family. They're truly convinced that Karen did it. They're so misled. They need to see they're blaming the wrong person. So sad. It is so sad. And Christina says it's common sense in physics. Paul, I'm going to delete that comment. Thank you for contributing, but I don't like anything that could get me sued for defamation because I don't know the truth or veracity of that statement, and I just can't have it out there in the chat. But I know that's the rumor.
What are you doing?
But we try and base this channel on facts because I'm an attorney, and so therefore, we can't defame or have any rumor, speculation in the chat because, you know, lawyer stuff. Oh, Andy Bear's here from Texas. Love starting my morning with you too, Andy. When you're not on, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. AD Rock 94. It is a great Ian Fleming film. Yes, it is. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Chitty Bang Bang. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I think during the trial I did one of the thumbnails that I had Chitty Chitty Bang Bang on it. Might have been after Trooper Paul testified. And I was like, what is Karen Reed's card like? Chitty Chitty Bang Bang? Like it flew backwards and hit him and then like floated away. Kathleen Van Vorst says, first time I heard about the brainstem, OMG, what would cause his friends to cause so much harm to him? Look, I don't know. I don't know what happened. He may have fallen backwards on a weight bench or some other thing that was 2 inches wide to cause his head to crack open that way. Could have very well been an accident. He could have slipped and fallen on ice and smashed his head on something maybe out by the pool. I don't know what happened, but what I do know is that he was not hit by a car. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but yes, I know, I feel you. Seamus says the audit report meeting was so good, old boy. It was clear that the reason for this is because the corruption is so casually accepted and inbred in Massachusetts. It was clear the guy speaking knew it was BS. Well, it was clear for me from like the first page of the audit report where they said, we look forward to continuing our work with you. You know, they've already been paid something like, I can't even get an actual amount, 200 grand, between 200 and 250 grand. And it's clear that they want to have a continuing relationship with the Canton PD to now implement the policies that they've suggested. So follow the money. And M coming in with the hot truth. We underestimate the number of stupid people in this country. Yeah, we do. Who interviewed Peter Murphy Spring? Billy Bush did a show. Billy Bush, remember Billy Bush? Was he on Access Hollywood or something? Billy Bush has been around a long time. He interviewed Peter Murphy, and also Peter Murphy was on Las Vegas Cops. I think they aired the full interview yesterday. Go back and watch it later. Look at this. Dare Justice says, I've always loved that Lady Justice is blind. I met a wonderful young lady who happened to be blind. Her name, Dare Justice. Really? That's wild. And what a lovely name that is. Good citizen missed it. What'd you miss? My stream or someone else's stream? Or all the Canton stuff? Go back and watch it. It's good TV. Good morning, Mr. Crosby's orphaned methodology. No opening statements today. They're still on jury selection. They have 10 jurors picked. They need another 6 because they're going to have 4 alternates. So far we know there are 5 women and 5 men, and that's pretty much all we know. Oh, something else wild that happened yesterday. I couldn't even watch. I only watched like a half an hour because they were yelling at each other so much. Broken Baker interviewed Yellow Cottage Cheese Kevin about the book that he wrote. And did anybody watch that? I mean, it was like they were yelling at each other back and forth. It was crazy. Good morning. Thank you, Susie Bronco, for gifting a membership. I appreciate you so much. Thank you, my miracle mama, for telling everybody to smash that like button. Well, you may not think I'm responsible for what the chat says, but here's the thing also is that YouTube does have an AI program that scans the chat, and if there's too many bad words and stuff, they will strike you, and they will make it, shadow ban you, and, demonetize, whatever they do. And then, there are those people out there who like to mass report channels and try and get you off the air. They've done it to a lot of people. It's a thing. So why risk it? Why risk it? Thank you, Sandra. Thank you. And good morning to South Carolina. Well, Canoni's Baloney, it was entertaining, to say the least, for the half an hour that I could sit through it. Thank you, Serenity RPH. It just got really, wild. Like, they were really yelling at each other and calling each other names, and it's crazy. Oh, he did. Kelly says, Baker dropped a sorry video about it this morning. It's crazy. Mark says, somebody once said they want 19 on the jury. Oh, okay. I mean, listen, the more alternates, the better. Things happen. People have family emergencies. They have to drop out. Billy Bush has a YouTube channel now. That is true. I don't know what happened at NBC either, but a lot, and I'm noticing that too about a lot of mainstream media characters. They're all starting YouTube channels because they realize nobody's watching mainstream media anymore. Nobody is watching it anymore. In fact, I was asked to go on Ashley Banfield's podcast. She has a new podcast, and I'm waiting for a date to tape that because here's the thing about Ashley Banfield. She gets it. She gets it. She's also known Alan Jackson for a long time. She's been open about that, and she is one of the only talking heads who actually agrees. How's this? Paul says, I've not watched mainstream media news here in Australia for years, many, many, many years. Jen says her podcast with Bob Mata was awesome. Yes, it was. I just feel like they didn't talk about the Cat Marie case enough. I feel like they got off on a lot of tangents. Right? I liked it too, and I love Bob.
I took this much and I got it down to this much.
Oh yeah, that's right. Also, Kevin Cottage Cheese said that he had lunch with Higgins, and he met with Higgins a couple of times and interviewed him for his book. I don't know anything about Higgins calling the Broken Baker anything dog lover, but that just reminded me to tell you guys that Kevin says that he interviewed Higgins and went to lunch with him a couple of times.
Yeah.
Who are the grifters, Billy Dolans? Who do you think the grifters are?
It's so funny because this is going to be one of those things.
You're new here, I see. Who are the grifters? You troll?
I do know why. At some point,
Oh, I can hear Jim.
yeah.
Clerk Jim, I do know why. Haley Clark, great point. Great question. Does the judge pick the foreman in New York? The foreman is always chair number 1 in New York. So whoever's sitting in seat number 1 is always the foreman. That's the way it works. Yeah, he had lunch with Higgins too. Isles of Shoals says, Baker said, I'm not stupid. English is my third language. Yeah, somebody pointed out to me that he speaks 6 languages. So yeah, he's He's no dummy. Kindergarten Cop. Did you get him? Block Island. It might be raining on Block Island today. Block Island is lovely this time of year sometimes, but I think it's raining because it's raining here on the East Coast. Block Island is a lovely island in between the coast of Long Island and Rhode Island, and you take a ferry there, Massachusetts, and we also have one-way tickets available. Oh man, she's not ready for her morning tight shot.
You are unmuted.
John Canone. Smash the like button if you're just coming in, and welcome. You haven't missed a thing. Poor dejected Adam Lally.
Tori.
Oh, Steve here? Hey, Steve. You're going to jury duty today, Susie? Not in Norfolk County, are you? Or are you going to watch? What are you saying? You're going to watch? Are you ready for your close-up? Judge Canone? Remember, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. This is the jury's first impression of the judge and the attorneys. That's why it's so important. And BB2 is here. She's an OG. She was my first member on this channel ever. Love you, girl. And here we go. She says, another week of insanity. Baby shark. Becca knows the baby shark hairdo that Lally had during the first trial, like when your little baby is in a bubble bath and they make bubble bath hair like a little shark fin on top of their head, or you do that to your little baby. And Lally did have the baby shark fin hairdo, or hair don't, for the entirety of the first trial and pre-trial, and we'll see if he does it again today. Oh yes, I see a little bit of baby shark going on there. How about you? Jennifer wants to know, when did the jury find out who the case was for when they walked in the courtroom? Some of them may have known when they got their jury summons in the mail that this was coming up and had an idea that they were going to be on this panel because they called in, I don't know how many. I think they said at least 1,000 jury notices went out. But they don't tell them when they get their jury notice in the mail what case it's going to be for, because you don't know what case it's going to be for. And in fact, if they get excused from this case, they go back to the jury room. They may be called for another case. All right, here we go. We may have to modulate the volume.
All persons have any business before the Honorable Beverly County. Justice of the Norfolk Superior Court is for the County of Norfolk. Draw near, give your attendance, and you shall be heard. By the state of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, this court is now open. Jurors remain standing. All the parties may be seated.
Jurors, could you raise your right hands?
God save the Commonwealth.
You don't swear to make true answers to such questions as are put forth to you by the court, so help you God. Thank you. You can have a seat. Judge, may I call the case?
Please.
Judge, this is 2282CR117, the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed. Can I have counsel identify themselves for the record, starting with the Commonwealth?
Good morning, Your Honor. Laura McLaughlin for the Commonwealth.
Good morning, Ms. McLaughlin.
Adam Lally for the Commonwealth.
Good morning, Mr. Lally.
Good morning, Your Honor. Hank Brendan for the Commonwealth.
Good morning, Mr. Brennan.
Good morning, Your Honor. Alan Jackson on behalf of the
Good morning, Mr. Jackson.
Good morning, Your Honor. Elizabeth Little, also on behalf.
Good morning, Ms.
I'm sorry, why are they not greeting the jury? Why are they just greeting the judge? They just swore the jurors and we know they're there. That's so weird.
Little.
Morning, Your Honor. Robert Leslie on behalf of this brief.
Good morning, Mr. Leslie.
Good morning, Your Honor. David Giannetti.
Good morning, Ms. Giannetti. Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor. Victoria George for Karen.
Good morning, Ms. George. Good morning, Ms. Reed. All right, and good morning, jurors. My name's Beverly Canoni. I'm a judge of this court, and I want to welcome you here today and give you some idea on how we think your day will shape up. You're here for impanelment in a criminal case that you've heard, and we appreciate you being here. Jury service is one of the most important civic duties that we have, and we understand that we're taking you away from your families or jobs, and we really appreciate that you're here, ready, willing, and able to serve if you're called upon to do so. And we also appreciate your patience with this proceeding. So this is the case of Commonwealth versus Karen Reed. The Commonwealth alleges that at approximately 6 a.m. on the morning of January 29, 2022, the Canton Police Department received a 911 call reporting an unresponsive male party in the snow outside a residence at 34 Fairview Road in that town. Officers responded and discovered the man, later identified as John O'Keefe, off the roadway in the front lawn area. Officers identified 3 women with Mr. O'Keefe, one of whom was the defendant, Karen Reed, the girlfriend of Mr. O'Keefe. The defendant had been with Mr. O'Keefe the previous evening at 2 different bars in Canton and had driven with him to this residence in the early morning hours of this date. Mr. O'Keefe was treated by paramedics from the Canton Fire Department and transported to the Good Samaritan Medical Center, where he was later pronounced deceased. The Commonwealth alleges that the defendant struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle earlier that morning and then left the scene while Mr. O'Keefe lay injured in the snow during a blizzard. The defendant denies these allegations. She is presumed to be innocent and has pled not guilty. The defendant is charged with second-degree murder. She is also charged with manslaughter while operating under the influence and leaving the scene after causing personal injury or death. I will describe those crimes in greater detail at the end of the case when I teach the juror the law, but briefly, murder is the unlawful killing of a human being. There are various ways in which the Commonwealth can prove a murder case, and the Commonwealth is permitted to proceed under all theories it believes it can prove. Here, the Commonwealth alleges that the defendant committed murder and that that murder was murder in the second degree. In order to prove the defendant guilty of second-degree murder, the Commonwealth must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Ms. Reed committed an unlawful killing and that it was done with malice. In comparison, involuntary manslaughter is an unintentional, unlawful killing caused by wanton or reckless conduct. These terms and the elements of the crimes will be explained to you in detail at the end of the case before you begin your deliberations. Now, at the outset, I would like to address the issue of public interest in this case and the duty of this court to adhere to the rule of law. John Adams said that we are a government of laws, not of men, and that the law must be deaf to the clamoring of the public. He meant that while public opinion about a given subject may ebb and flow, the law must be steady, reliable, and even-handed.
Neither one of those things you are.
On the subject of this case, there are people advocating for one outcome or another with intensity, but without the benefit of having heard or seen any evidence at all. The law works in a different way, and the difference is crucial to our system of justice. The jurors selected for this trial will hear and judge the evidence. They will decide what the facts are. Where the evidence is contested, they will determine where the truth lies. Ultimately, the jury will decide whether the Commonwealth has carried its burden of proving that Ms. Reed is guilty of any crime beyond a reasonable doubt. People outside of this building have rights, and we know that they have voices, but this criminal trial will be decided by an independent jury, free from outside interference.
And I made sure of that because I made sure they are at least 200 feet away, even more so on one side of the courthouse, but it's not really delineated where that buffer zone is right now. There are 45 new jurors here today for jury duty, according to Christina Rex on Twitter. And so these are all new people. The people that were not questioned last Friday were all excused, which is weird to me, but whatevs. There's 45 new people here there today.
Based only upon the evidence presented in this courtroom and the law. This is the only way to ensure that every person who comes before the court receives a fair trial. It is just that simple and that important. So, while public comment will likely continue, the rule of law will be upheld. In order to determine your eligibility to serve on this case, I'm going to ask questions to you all as a group, and then I'm going to ask you to fill out a supplemental questionnaire. We have found that the use of this questionnaire is helpful for several reasons. First, there are some personal questions on it, and we ask that you be candid. In addition, the process of filling out the questionnaire provides the opportunity to be more reflective as you answer the questions, rather than being put on the spot and asked to give immediate answers. After you fill out the questionnaire, we will have you come up to the sidebar one at a time so that we can follow up with you on your answers to the questionnaire and to my questions. I want to thank you in advance for your patience as we go through this process. As you may know, the lawyers for the parties participate in the selection of the jury. Under our law, each of the parties has the right to exercise what we call juror challenges. This means that each party has the right to challenge a certain number of prospective jurors for any reason or for no reason at all. Therefore, some of you may be excused during the impanelment procedure. If you're not selected for jury service on this case, please don't take it personally. Don't think that somehow we think you're not a fair person. It's not a reflection on you at all. You will be directed back to the jury room and perhaps picked on another case later. In a few minutes, I will pose a number of questions to you as a group. You have taken an oath that requires you to truthfully answer those questions and all questions posed to you. If your answer to any question is yes, I will ask that you raise your hand and hold up your juror card in the air with the numbers facing out. You don't need to get your cards out yet. I'll tell you when you can, when we need to have those cards out. So you hold the card up in the air until the court officer can read the number from the card. The fact that you answer yes to one of my questions does not mean that you're automatically disqualified from jury service. It simply means that there are matters that the lawyers and I need to discuss with you at sidebar. If you find a question posed to the group overly intrusive, you may elect to answer that question at sidebar. I will have additional questions for you which relate to issues that may be raised in this trial and are designed to give us more information regarding your ability to serve as a fair and impartial juror, and the lawyers are permitted to ask you questions for the same reason. This is not a test. There is no right or wrong answer. We simply want your best and honest answer to the questions. I'm now going to ask the lawyers to introduce themselves, and I'm going to ask counsel for the defense to introduce their client.
Now they get to introduce
Starting with
themselves.
the Commonwealth, please.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Hank Brennan. I represent the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Along with me, my colleagues.
Good morning, my name is Laura McLaughlin. I'm the Assistant District Attorney for the Norfolk District Attorney's Office. Welcome, good morning, thank you for being here.
Good morning, my name is Adam Lally, Assistant District Attorney with the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office. Represent the Commonwealth. Thank you for your time and attention today indeed.
Lally speaks.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alan Jackson. I have the honor and privilege to represent Karen Reed, who is standing to my right.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. My name is Elizabeth Little, and I also have the privilege of representing Ms. Reed.
Good morning. Thank you for coming and for your time today. My name is Robert Alessi, and I have the privilege of representing Ms. Reed.
Good morning. My name is David Unetti. I'm an attorney. I have offices in Boston and right here in Dedham. My honor to represent Karen Reed.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. I'm Victoria George, and I have the privilege of representing Ms. Reed.
Good morning, I'm Karen Reed. Thank you for being here.
Okay, thank you all. Folks, I'm going to read the witness list to you. There are a lot of names on this list. It doesn't mean that each one of these people will be called as jurors. It just means that you may hear their names referenced during the course of the trial. So it's important that you listen closely to the names. At some point soon, I'm going to ask you whether you know any of these folks. So please listen carefully. They're alphabetical by first name.
Except for
Aiden Kearney from...
Except for all the troopers are under the T section. So if you think you don't hear Michael Proctor, it's under T for trooper. Sergeants are under S for sergeant. And Aiden Carney is number 1 on the list. He's number 1 on the call sheet because his name begins with A. It's ridiculous.
From Jefferson, Massachusetts, by first name. Aiden Kearney from Jefferson, Massachusetts. Dr. Isaac Wolf from South Miami, Florida. Alfred Lopalato from Canton. Allison McCabe from Canton. Andre Porto from the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab. Andrew Klain from Bridgewater. Andrew Rentschler, PhD from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Angela Malvone from Canton, Mass. Annie Chung, also from Canton. Anthony Flamati from the Canton Fire Department. Ashley Bell, Canton. Ashley Valliere from the State Police Crime Lab. Brian Albert, Norwood. Brian Albert Jr., Boston. Brian Higgins from Sandwich. Brian Loughran from Canton. Brian Wanless, who is retired from the Canton Police Department. Bridget.
Brian Higgins also had a sandwich with Kevin Yellow Cottage Cheese, apparently. They had lunch together a couple of times because he interviewed Higgins for his book, as we learned yesterday, Unbroken Baker. Just saying.
Meehan, keeper of the records from Canton. Caitlin Albert from Easton. Lieutenant Charles Ray of the Canton Police Department. Chief of the Canton Police, Helena Rafferty. Chris Van E., who is a PhD from Novi, Michigan. Christina Hanley from the State Police. Christopher Albert from Canton. Christopher Curran from Canton. Colleen Crawford from the Norfolk DA's office. Colin Albert from Canton. Courtney Proctor, Canton. Kurt Roberts, Canton. Daniel Whitley from the Canton Fire Department. Daniel Wolf, who's a PhD from Penns Park, Pennsylvania. Derek Ellington from Wake Forest, North Carolina. Dr. Marie Russell from Los Angeles, California. Dr. Elizabeth Laposada, who's from Providence. Elizabeth Proctor from Canton. Eric Hanlon.
The only 2 doctors that are under the D section, just in case you were trying to figure this out and keep track of the ridiculousness. Dr. Marie Russell, Dr. Elizabeth Loposada.
Canton. Erin Beatty, Canton. Erin O'Keefe from West Bridgewater. Francis Walsh from the Canton Fire Department. Garrett Wing from Green Cove Springs, Florida. Gary Fowler from Brockton. Gregory Woodbury from the Canton Fire Department. Gretchen Voss from Boston. Hannah Knowles from the State Police Crime Lab. Heather Maxon from Walpole, Mass. Arabito Hernandez from the Boston Police Department. Holly Price from Mountain View, California. Ian Whiffen from Vienna, Virginia. Dr. Irene Scorti-Bello, she's from the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, Massachusetts. James Crosby, who's a PhD from Jacksonville, Florida. Janet Reed from Dighton, Mass. Jason Becker from the Canton Fire Department. Jean Demoulis from Canton.
Wait a second.
Jennifer McCabe from Canton.
Mrs. Reed is back on the list. Do you remember the other day we looked through the list again and Mrs. Reed was not on the list, Janet Reed, and now she's back on the list? Am I missing something? She was not on the combined witness list. I got to go back and look at it, which I will do now.
Jessica Hyde from Bridgeport, New York. John O'Keefe Sr., who lives in Braintree. Judson Welcher, who's a PhD from a company named Aperture LLC. Julie Albert from Canton. Julie Nagel from Canton. Justin Rice, who is a physician from South Weymouth. 2 juveniles from Canton, one of whom has the initials KF and the other is PF. Caitlin Boudreau from Raynham. Karina Kolakithas from Canton. Katie Camerano from Canton. Katie McLaughlin from the Canton Fire Department. The keeper of the records for Ring from Hawthorne, California. Kerry Curran from Canton. Kerry Roberts, Canton. Kevin Albert, Canton. Kevin O'Hara from the Mass State Police. Lance Mello from the State Police Crime Lab. Laura Sullivan from Pembroke. Laura Cahill from Worcester. Leslie Pearlstein from Canton. Lieutenant Michael Lant from the Canton Fire Department. Louis Jutras from Canton. Lieutenant Brian Tully from the Mass State Police. Lieutenant John Fanning from the Mass State Police. Lieutenant Paul Gallagher from the Canton Police Department. Maggie Gaffney from Bonita Springs, Florida. Mark Lopalato from Canton. Margaret O'Keefe, also from Canton. Marietta Sullivan from Pembroke, Mary Souza from Dighton, Matthew Amory from Canton, Matthew DeSogra from Charlotte, North Carolina, Matthew Erickson from Grosse Pointe Farms, Michigan, Matthew Kelly from the Canton Fire Department, Matthew Kelsch from the FBI, Matthew McCabe from Canton, Maureen Harnett from the State Police Crime Lab, Megan Mariani from New York, New York, Michael Camerano from Canton, Michael Easter from Los Angeles, Michael Trotter from the Canton Public Works Department, Michael Wagner, Foxborough, Mike Maroli, Bridgewater, Mike Rushworth from Thompson Station, Tennessee, Natalie Wyweek Berschneider from San Marino, California.
Natalie the German.
Nathan Reed from Raynham, Nicholas Bradford from Lorton, Virginia, Nicholas Curran from West Roxbury, Nicholas Kolakithis from Canton, Nicole Albert from Norwood, Norfolk County District Attorney Michael Morrissey, Officer Kelly Deaver from the Boston Police Department, Officer Nicholas Barrows from the Dighton Police Department, Patrick Haggerty from Somerset, Paul Mikowski from Melrose, Paul O'Keefe from Canton, Rebecca Bisen from Canton, Rebecca Trayers, Norfolk, Dr. Renee Stonebridge, she also is from the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner in Boston, Richard Green from St. Pete Beach, Florida, Richard Donatno from Canton, Robert Gilman from Hull, Ryan Nagel, Canton, Sarah Levinson, Canton, Sergeant Brian Gallerini, the Needham Police Department, Sergeant Sean Good, the Canton Police Department, Sergeant Paul D. Giampetro from the Canton Police Department, Sergeant Yuri Buchanan from the Mass State Police, Shannon Burgess from South Lake, Texas, Cheryl Waugh from Canton, Sophie Herzan, the State Police Crime Lab, Stephanie Devlin, State Police Crime Lab, Stephen Mullaney, Canton Police Department, Steve Nelson, the Norfolk County DA's office, Stephen Bernstein, who is a keeper of the records from Stoughton, Stephen Ridge, the Boston Police Department, Stephen Seraph, Canton Police Department, Stephen Scanlon from West Roxbury, Terry Kuhn from Davis, California, Tess Chart from Lorton, Virginia, Thomas Beatty from Canton, Thomas Kelleher from Canton, Thomas Martin from Weymouth, Timothy Nuttall from the Canton Fire Department, Tristan Morris, Easton. The following people are Mass State Police troopers: Trooper Connor Keefe, Trooper David DeChico, Trooper Evan Brent, Trooper Jeffrey Koskowski, Trooper Joseph Paul, Trooper Kathleen Prince, Trooper Michael Proctor, Trooper Nick.
He's not a trooper anymore. He's not. He's a disgraced, dishonorably discharged former trooper, no longer decorated dude.
Nicholas Guarino, Trooper Zachary Clark, Wendell Robery from Canton, and William Reed from North Dartmouth. I'm sorry. North Dighton. So those are the list of witnesses. You're likely not to hear from all of them, but you will hear from many of them. And you can tell that this case is going to take a while to try. So we're in the process of impaneling a jury. We don't know how long this process will take. Once we get a jury, the lawyers tell me that their best estimate is that the evidence in the case will take between 6 and 8 weeks for the evidence. What we do is every day I will let you know if at the end of the day if the case is on track or a little ahead of schedule or behind schedule, and I have never had to say that we were behind schedule in a case. So we all appreciate your time and know how long this will take. So we do everything we can not to waste any of your time. There'll be a few days off here and there sprinkled throughout this long trial.
Taco Tuesdays.
The schedule that we will have
Go to the Cape early
we will
Fridays.
start each morning at 9 o'clock. We'll take a break around 11 for 15 or 20 minutes. Lunch will be about 45 minutes. We'll have lunch brought in for you folks so that you don't have to walk down and take any longer than we need. And we'll have it brought in to you every day. Then we'll go after lunch until about 4 o'clock each day.
Unless it's Thursday,
So
Thursday.
that's the schedule that we have. It's
White
a
Claw
good
Wednesday.
faith estimate. Sometimes trials go longer, sometimes they go shorter, but it's the best estimate that we have regarding how long it will take. So it might help now if I give you a preview about some basic law that applies to all criminal cases. It's my job to teach the jury the law,
No,
and I don't do
no.
that completely until the end of.
She doesn't teach them the law. This is not law school. You are to instruct them on the law. You don't teach them the law. You instruct them on the law. She says this every single time, and it really pisses me off. Also, I just looked at the combined witness list, which is docket, maybe you don't know, but it's docket number 647. Janet Reed is not on the combined witness list. I'm going to have to go back and watch every day to see when they added her back in. But I remember pointing it out. And then I said, I looked in the J's for Janet. I looked in the M's for Mom. I looked in the M's for Mrs. And I looked under the R's for Reed. She wasn't there. So it's interesting that they put her back on. They're never going to call her. So whatevs.
The trial. So for now, I'll give you a very brief summary of some of the very important legal principles that will govern this trial. First, and most basically, the defendant starts this trial presumed to be innocent. The fact that she was arrested or was indicted is not proof of anything. An indictment is just a piece of paper. It just makes an accusation. An indictment is merely a formal manner in which to get a case against a person who's accused of a crime to come to trial in the Superior Court. But it is only the jury, in other words, you folks, who ultimately decides whether the prosecution has proved its case beyond a reasonable doubt. If the Commonwealth does not do that, then the presumption of innocence requires you to find Ms. Reed not guilty. The law does not require a defendant to prove her innocence, to produce any evidence whatsoever, or to do anything other than attend the trial. This presumption of innocence remains with the defendant until you, the jury, make your determination after listening and considering all of the evidence. Another important principle of law is that the defendant has an absolute right then not to testify, since the entire burden of proof in this case is on the Commonwealth to prove that she is guilty. Under our system of law, a defendant has a perfect right to say to the government, you accuse me, now you prove it, and prove it beyond a reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty. I do not have to say a word. The jury must not consider in any way the fact that a defendant testifies or not testifies, because it has nothing to do with the question of whether she is guilty or not guilty. The jurors must determine whether the Commonwealth has proved its case beyond the defendant, beyond a reasonable doubt, based solely on the testimony of the witnesses and the exhibits introduced at trial. That brings me to the requirement of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. What is proof beyond a reasonable doubt? The term is often used and probably pretty well understood, though it is not easily defined. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt does not mean proof beyond all possible doubt, for everything in the lives of human beings is open to some possible or imaginary doubt. A charge is proved beyond a reasonable doubt if, after you have compared and considered all of the evidence, you have in your minds an abiding conviction to a moral certainty that the charge is true. When we refer to moral certainty, we mean the highest degree of certainty possible in matters relating to human affairs, based solely on the evidence that has been put before you in a case. I have told you that every person is presumed to be innocent unless and until he or she is proved guilty, and that the burden of proof is on the Commonwealth. If you evaluate all the evidence and you still have a reasonable doubt remaining, the defendant is entitled to the benefit of that doubt and must be acquitted. It is not enough for the Commonwealth to establish a probability, even a strong probability, that the defendant is more likely to be guilty than not guilty. That is not enough. Instead, the evidence must convince you of the defendant's guilt to a reasonable and moral certainty, a certainty that convinces your understanding and satisfies your reason and judgment as jurors who are sworn to act conscientiously on the evidence. This is what we mean by proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Our system of justice depends on judges like me and jurors like you being able and willing to make careful and fair decisions. All people deserve fair and equal treatment in our system of justice, regardless of their race, national origin, religion, age, ability, gender, sexual orientation, education, income level, or any other personal characteristic. You have agreed to be fair, and I am sure that you want to be fair, but that is not always easy. One difficulty comes from our own built-in expectations and assumptions. They exist even if we're not aware of them, and even if we believe we do not have them. Some of you may have heard this called implicit bias, and that is what I'm talking about. Of course, we judges have the same problem as everyone else, so let me
yes, you
share a few
do.
strategies that we have found useful. First,
She's going to teach them some strategies for dealing with their implicit bias, because even she has implicit bias, which is on full display in front of the world. And in fact, dear jury, if you are selected, you are going to hear that one of the troopers in this case, the lead trooper, who was then dishonorably discharged and disgraced, who was then demoted to case manager, customer service rep at some point during the last trial, he had an implicit bias for which he was actually fired with regard to the defendant sitting right there in that chair in this case. Think about that.
slow down. Do not rush to a decision. Hasty decisions are more likely to reflect stereotypes or hidden biases. Second, keep an open mind. Avoid drawing conclusions until the end of the case when you and your fellow jurors deliberate. Remember that when you deliberate, you will have all the evidence and all the time you need to make a careful decision. So there truly is no need to stop making your mind up before then.
But here's what happened last time. See, the jury got confused by my hella confusing instructions. And even though they acquitted Karen Reed of murder and charged count 3, I didn't ask them. And so, you know, she wasn't acquitted. They're all pissed off. But you know what? No big deal. No prejudice. Because here she gets another trial, everyone. Ta-da!
Third, you should listen closely to all the witnesses. That is the best way to ensure that you decide this case based on the evidence and the law instead of upon unsupported assumptions. Fourth, as you listen to testimony about the people involved in this case, consider them as individuals rather than as members of a particular group. Finally, I might ask myself, would I view the evidence differently if the people were from different groups, such as different racial, ethnic, or gender identity groups? At the end of this case, I will remind you of these strategies and ask you to focus on the evidence instead of on any unsupported assumptions you may have. All we ask is that you, individually and as a group, do your best to resolve this case based upon the evidence and the law without sympathy, bias, or prejudice, to the best of your ability as human beings. Now, I know that some of this may be confusing, and perhaps all of it is confusing at this early stage of the case. You'll certainly be in a better position to understand this at the end of the case when you've heard all the evidence and I can explain the law in detail. So please don't be worried if you didn't catch everything I said. Why am I telling you these things now? Because we need to know if you are able to follow the law in this case. You don't necessarily have to agree with the law, but all the jurors will have to apply the law as I describe it. So, for jury selection, it's important to know if any of you might have some doubts about whether you can accept and follow these legal principles. So now I'm going to ask you to take out those white cards, please.
It's like being at an auction. We are a little behind. I'm going to fast forward.
But before we begin, I understand that sometimes jurors do not fill out the juror questionnaires completely, that sometimes we're in a hurry to get those questionnaires in, or sometimes we think that our situation may not apply to the question that's being asked. So if you know now that you've left something out of the jury question.
Oh, when I speed her up, she sounds a little like a chipmunk. I like it. I'm trying to get through this so we can flip on over to the Turk trial, which was supposed to start at 10 a.m. in the courtroom right next door to this one, but they're a little behind, so we're cool.
Tell us at sidebar. Jurors often leave out by mistake things like prior service in the jury, prior experiences in court as a litigant, as a witness, as a criminal defendant in a case. If we notice that your name is not there, if there's an employment history missing, we'll ask you. But if you know in advance, please let us know when you come up to sidebar. All right, my first question. Do any of you folks or a close personal friend or family member know, or have you had any prior dealings with any of the witnesses whose names I read out?
There's only 45 there today, so keep that in mind.
Juror number 592, juror number 564, juror number 595, juror number 593, juror number 572.
Thank you. Do any of you folks or a close personal friend or family member know, or have you had any prior dealings with the lawyers in this case or the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office?
Juror number 595.
Thank you. Do any of you folks or a close personal friend or family member have any financial or other personal interest whatsoever in this case or its outcome?
Juror number 568.
Thank you. If you have seen, heard, or talked about this case, please raise your hand now.
Juror number 576. Juror number 569. Juror number 562. Juror 589. Juror 596. Juror 606. Juror 563. Juror 571. Juror 572. Juror 586. Juror 550. Juror 603. Juror 578. Juror 607. Juror 569. Juror 562. And Juror 577.
Juror 555. Juror 599. Juror 559. Juror 568. Juror 581. Juror 564. Juror 595. Juror 600. Juror 574. Juror 561. Juror 565. Juror 602. Juror 566. Juror 582. Juror 601. Juror 553. Juror 597. Juror 575. Juror 609. Juror 592. Juror 594. Juror 593. Juror 584. And Juror 558.
Thank you. Please raise your hand if you've expressed or formed any opinion with respect to this case.
Juror 562. Juror 569. Juror 596. Juror 603. Juror 578. Juror 607. Juror 606. Juror 586. Juror 563. Juror 571. Juror 572. And Juror 576.
Juror 555. Juror 599. Juror 559. Juror 568. Juror 564. Juror 595. Juror 600. Juror 574. Juror 561. Juror 602. Juror 566. Juror 582. Juror 601. Juror 553. Juror 575. Juror 592. Juror 593. And Juror 584. Sorry, 602.
Thank you. Are any of you folks aware of any bias or prejudice that you may have in regard to this case or in favor of or against either of the parties? Please raise your hand.
Juror 595. Juror 555. Juror 599. Juror 559. Juror 568. Juror 564. Juror 602. Juror 566. Juror 582. Juror 598. Juror 593. Juror 584.
Juror 576.
All right. Do any of you folks have any difficulty hearing or any problem with understanding the English language, any physical or mental condition, or any religious or philosophical beliefs that would interfere with your ability to hear the evidence in this case, to understand the evidence, to concentrate during the trial, or to deliberate for the purpose of reaching a verdict? If so, please raise your hand.
Juror 577. Juror 569. Juror 607. Juror 550.
Juror 561. Juror 600. Juror 611.
Thank you. Would any of you folks have any difficulty understanding and following those very important constitutional principles that I've outlined for you? First, that the burden of proof rests entirely on the Commonwealth. Second, that the burden of proof is proof beyond a reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty. And third, that the defendant has absolutely no burden to do anything. She doesn't have to testify. She doesn't have to present any evidence. Her lawyers don't have to ask a single question. Anyone that would have difficulty following those very important constitutional principles, please raise your hand.
Juror 561.
Oh, 595 did not raise their hand.
Thank you. I can tell you folks that after every trial, I talk to jurors, and they tell me that not only was the jury experience an interesting one, most times they tell me that it was a very rewarding one. But
Yeah, except for when they acquit the defendant on 2 charges, like in exactly this case. And did you really go talk to them after? Because were they really too afraid to ask you, hey, why didn't you ask us if we acquitted her on counts 1 and 3? Because we really did. But it was so rewarding for them that one of them was so outraged that she is an attorney and is now a member of the defense team. You know, so there's that.
I do understand that for some of you folks, serving on this jury may be an undue hardship. Let me tell you what I mean about that. Every civic duty we have causes us to be inconvenienced. An undue or a substantial hardship is much greater than that. It means that it's something personal to you so that you don't serve, but the person next to you has
But you know who's really inconvenienced? While we're talking about inconvenience, Karen Reed, because she's being persecuted again. She's in debt, $5 million. She liquidated all her 401ks and retirement accounts. She had to sell her house to defend herself in this farce of a persecution. She's been dealing with this for 3 years. And even though she was acquitted on 2 charges, she's sitting in your courtroom being persecuted again. So that's a little inconvenient for her, don't you think?
to take your spot. I generally think of it in terms of if you're a student, or if you have airline tickets or surgery scheduled for the period of time that we'll be in trial. But I will hear anyone who thinks they have a substantial hardship. So if you think you fall into that group, please raise your hand now.
You're a 589. You're a 596. You're a 569. You're a 562. You're a 577. You're a 607. You're a 578. You're a 603. You're a 590. You're a 572. You're a 571. You're 576.
You're a 611.
Ooh, a lot of people have vacation plans.
You're a 553. You're a 581. You're a 568. You're a 55. You're a 566. You're a 559. You're a 599. You're a 561. You're a 574. You're a 575.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to leave the bench in a minute to give you a chance to fill out the questionnaires. I ask that you not talk to anyone as you fill out these questionnaires or share any information with a prospective juror regarding any questions or comments or concerns you may have about jury duty in general or jury duty on
But
this
don't take
case.
selfies.
So
Tell them
we'll
that.
get you those forms, and we'll see you in a little while.
Tell them no pictures, no selfies of everyone else in the panel or you. And if you didn't see that, a couple of jurors in the panel last week posted to social media. I showed those at the beginning of the stream. You might want to rewind it for a second, because she didn't even address that at all. Oh, that's annoying. Remember they used to play that when we had like 5 TV stations in the middle of the night? They used to play that. This is not a test. And all of the stations would go off the air. Let's go to the chat for questions. Veronica Truly, thank you for your super sticker. Kansas sofa juror. Why isn't the defense talked about the blood law? All the blood laws. Love starting my morning with you too. Maybe they will in this trial, being that the judge has allowed an expert to come in and talk about the rock hard ground causing the major skull fractures to John O'Keefe. Maybe they will be. Maybe now the defense will be able to cross-examine and say, but doctor brain surgeon, if the ground was hard as a rock, and it was so hard that it caused his skull to fracture in so many different places, including the back of his skull, both temporal sides of his skull and the front of his skull, and his brain was herniated. How much blood would there be, doctor? And if the ground was hard as a rock, doctor, since you're now a podologist or whatever Bobby Alessi taught us was the name of a guy who learns all about soil, an soil expert, would the blood seep into the soil or would it pool around the decedent's body, doctor? It's going to be a great cross. Can't wait for it. Thank you, Kansas sofa juror. Jonathan says, related to gym equipment and brainstem situation from Google for home gym equipment, common square tubing sizes range from 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches to 2 inches by 2 inches. And didn't they say the wound to the back of his skull, the laceration was 2 inches? I think so. Thank you, Jonathan, for your contribution. Andrew's here from Australia. Says in Jen McCabe's 911 call, the statement, "It could have been even a couple hours," leaped out at me. A reasonable person would say could be 5 to 6 hours based on her experience that night. Or a reasonable person might say, I don't know. Right? Why even put a time on it? We listened to that 911 call again yesterday, and it's wild. She says, they just flipped him over. He got out of the car. Been here for a couple hours. I think he's dead. You better come quick. Go back to yesterday's stream and listen to it. I've timestamped it so you can go right exactly to that part. And Manj says, good morning. Was there a decision if they will allow explanations on objections this trial? Unlike last trial, yes, they are not allowed to state grounds for objections. Everything must be done at sidebar. Unless the judge decides to rule from the bench because she just thinks everyone should know what the objection is about. And I wonder if she's going to say, the way she did to Lally, Would you like to object, Mr. Brennan? And I wonder if the witnesses will look over at Mr. Brennan to object the way they did for Lally. And if you go back and watch Ally McCabe's testimony, you'll see it even more. It's really glaring. Thanks for your super chat. Ms. Little Bones, can the jury research the case before it starts? Well, the judge has no control over what they do before they're called, but once they are impaneled and once they are sitting in jury selection, they are not to do any outside research. Great question. Kaylee Clark is here. She's a paralegal. What motions still haven't been ruled on? Well, chat, I may need your help on this. She hasn't determined whether Garrett Wing is going to be able to testify. That's a decision we're waiting for. I don't know if she has determined. I think she's reserved ruling on the ARCA witnesses. She said that the voir dire for the ARCA witnesses is going to be the day before their testimony, and so we're waiting on that. No, the motion to dismiss has been ruled on. Oh boy, did I get angry. My head popped off at least 5 times during that motion to dismiss reading. Go back and watch that. I was trending on Twitter that night because I cursed so much that it really freaked a lot of people out because I don't curse on this channel. So that was crazy. The blood alcohol motion. Thank you, Michael. That has not yet been determined. The one about whether or not Aiden Carney can be in the courtroom. Correct. Thank you. And then May. Oh, Karen's way to listen to sidebars. Yeah, she asked for headphones. It was denied. Denied. She can walk up to sidebar just like Hammer haircut Harry has to do in the Turk trial. They still haven't started yet. But as soon as we finish here, we're going to teleport over to the courtroom right next door to this one to see a really amazing judge and Kevin Reddington try the case of Dr. Ingolf Turk. We are on day 6 of that trial. Thank you, Kaylee, for your super sticker. Gail says, let the evidence in then, Judge. Thank you, Gail. Kyle says, may God bless Karen Reed and company with much wealth. Thank you so much, Kyle. Boiled Frog 61. I'm always here with you, and it's ain't no place I'd rather be. Boiled Frog, thanks for your super sticker and for tuning in from across the pond. Lily Coy, it's a strange thing to actually miss Lally. It's going to be painful listening to Spanky. Agreed. Proctor's dishonorable discharge is here from Canada. My daughter's working on her master's paralegal. Proud mom here. Yay, your daughter. Oh, she watches my replays. Thank you. Shout out to your daughter and to you. Thank you so very much for your super chat. Life per Mary. Behind but listening to you while laboring at home. 4 days overdue. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Happened to me with my first. I have 5. My first child was 2 weeks late, and every day after my due date felt like a year. I feel you. I feel you. She she says, I swear the baby moves when he hears your voice. Come on, baby. Come on. It's time. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. I bet you can't wait. I know. I know. Every day feels like a year, and you don't answer the phone because everyone's calling like, is there a baby yet? Is there a baby yet? And you're like, don't you think I would have called you? I know. I know. I feel you. Just stay hydrated. Keep drinking. Drink a lot of apple juice, a lot of water, because I went to the hospital with my first, and I thought I was in labor, and I was in labor, but they're like, yeah, no, you're dehydrated. Here's an IV. Go home. And then we were back to the hospital, and like 2 hours later, it was wild. Oh, those are the days. And Monge says, are they allowed to keep adding to the witnesses? Yes, if they have good cause to add a witness, or if new things come up, they can add a witness. But remember, Judge Canoni is the gatekeeper to hell. It's under her eye, and so she gets to decide. So he's an adventure. Giraffe Baby Lover is here. Are the jurors not supposed to know this is a retrial? They're not supposed to know, but I think anybody who doesn't know has been living under a rock. So I don't think they can bring it up during the trial that there was a first trial, but I think most of them know. And I think, in my opinion, juror number 595 is going to be the first one they bring to sidebar to question, because that juror raised his or her hand to just about everything. Thank you, Giraffe Baby Lover. Midnight Mike gifted 10 memberships. You're awesome, Midnight Mike. And that's a reminder for all of you to please hit the like button. It helps the algorithm, helps the girl out. Hit the subscribe button because it's free and because I really, really, really want that silver play button from YouTube for 100,000 subscribers. And I don't know, we're in the low 80,000s right now. So that would be awesome if you do that for me. VCaser's here. Love my Cancun orange zip hoodie. A little oversized, so soft, feels like a hug. Yes, the zip hoodies are oversized. It's 20% off today in the merch shop. So if you want merch, today's the day to get it. I think it might be the last day. I'm glad you like it. Janelle is here. I watched a random YouTube video last week where a guy was talking about his rescue dog of 3 months suddenly attacked him out of the blue. Showed his arm and it looked just like John O'Keefe's. Thank you, Janelle. Please do not send me the photographs. I can't unsee them. And I just will say that I believe you. Thanks for your super chat. Tracy, thank you so much for tuning in and your super chat. Next time you come to a police officer in the snow, Jen McCabe, the words should be officer down. Yeah. Agreed. I'm with you. LJ says, see, you might need me as a paramedic in case your head pops off during trial 2.0. I know you sent me your CV. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. It's very impressive, though, I must say. But I will say, LJ, why don't you email me your thoughts on what happened here and the missteps and things such as like that. And we can see if we can add you in one day. Susie, thanks for tuning in for Australia and for your super chat says, can't believe we're here again. Free Karen Reed. I know. Can any of us believe that we're here again? Not me. Let me look on the docket and see if anything new has been filed. Any new decisions that we need to talk about before we hop on over to the courtroom next door. If you haven't been watching that trial, you should come over with us because it's wild. It's what a difference a judge makes, right? Those of you who are watching the Turk trial, tell your friends here in the chat what a difference a judge makes. Talk amongst yourselves for a second. I don't know why the docket number's not working. Okay, there we go. Who watched the White Lotus finale last night? No spoilers, but I liked it. I was on the edge of my seat for at least an hour and a half. Well, that's how long the show was. It was an hour and a half finale. I think out of all the seasons, I like season 2 the best. Tell me which season you liked of White Lotus the best if you are watching. Christina Rex usually breaks down like how many jurors said what to what question. Okay, here's what she said. Out of 45 potential jurors today, it was a small panel in the Karen Reed trial, 41 out of 45 had seen, heard, or talked about the case. 31 out of 45 had formed an opinion on the case. 13 had bias or favor for a particular party. And 24 of 45 had a substantial hardship like plane tickets or surgery. Or maybe they just really, really, really do not want to be on this jury. And I would submit to you that there are some who really, 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 really do want to be on the jury. So they all have to be weeded out, but they're weeded out one by one at sidebar. The defendant has been making a motion every day to get a clerk's list of the jurors. I don't know if it's been ruled on or if they've been getting it, but the reason for that is because they want to start doing research on all of these people in the panel, and they're entitled to it. So there's that. Yeah, so only 45 are there, and it could be a while. They want at least 6 more. So I imagine it's going to go through the end of this week. Maybe the trial will start next week, which is still earlier than what we thought. I don't see anything new. I don't see anything. That has been decided. If you guys in the chat are aware, let me know. Kind of a short one today. Thank you to the moderators for keeping it classy. We are going to head on over to the courtroom next door where the Turk trial is scheduled to begin soon. It hasn't started yet, so we haven't missed a beat. Kevin Reddington is the defense attorney. He represented Jen McCabe in the Karen Reed trial when they were trying to get Jen McCabe's Google search records. And he has said some very kind things about me on the television. He said that there is a YouTuber who's been covering the Turk trial, and she's very credible. She's a lawyer from New York. Her name is Melanie Little, and she's not salacious. But there are some other YouTubers that are covering it that are salacious, and therefore, Judge Halal, you should give me a change of venue. And Judge Halal said, no. Sorry, no. So thank you, Kevin Reddington, for the kind words. I appreciate them so much. Midnight Mike has been here for 8 months and says more cupcakes is a very good thing. We're family here. We are. Horse Feather says, why aren't Brian's text messages in the cloud? Well, I don't know. They were never able to get Brian Higgins' text messages. Brian Higgins' text messages that were provided at trial were printed out by Brian Higgins himself because he went to the FBI headquarters where his friend Matt Kelch worked. Matt Kelch taught him how to use the kiosk. He printed out the text messages that he wanted to turn over. Then he destroyed his phone, cracked a SIM card, and put it in a dumpster on a military base a little before the preservation order was granted or whatevs. But Matt Kelch is on the witness list, so that's going to be interesting. But aside from that, his text messages were not allowed to be given to the defense. The stuff they have is from the feds. Mike gifted another 5 memberships. Thank you, Midnight Mike. And so did 18 Wheels of Outrage. You're amazing. Thank you so very much. Nico 2020, Jen told 911 we flipped him over. So if that's the case, Officer John O'Keefe would have been found on his belly, right? You are correct. No, well, she says we flipped him over because when the EMTs got over, he was on his back. So, right, he would have been found on his belly. So then they flipped him over. Who knows what the truth is? We've heard a lot of versions of their truth. And so here we go. The Turk trial is starting. We're heading over there now. We're going to teleport you. Smash the like on your way out. Smash the like on your way in over to Ingolf Turk's case. Rest in peace, Katie McLean. Remember, her daughter is watching our stream, so please be kind in the chat. Thank you, moderators. Thank you, Cupcakes. Love you all. Viewers, replay viewers, smash the like. Come for me in the comments. I'm going to see you over at the new stream in 3, 2, 1. Safe travels. Stay cool, stay kind, stay classy, and peace.